Hey, this is the Entertainment Advice Channel. What I want to talk about today is a topic of how we can end the racial representation issue in Hollywood, or in the movie industry, whatever you like to call it, okay? So for this video, what I'm going to talk about is a topic of how we can end this issue, which is the issue of cultures of people such as Black, Hispanic, Indian, and numerous other races feeling that their cultures are not being represented enough, in the movie industry, let alone their actors of the races they belong to are not being represented enough, is what I'll be discussing today, okay? So if you're interested in knowing how we get into this issue, then watch this video and know where to find out. So now I mentioned that, let's get started. So when it comes to this issue, it simply comes down to people need to represent their own culture themselves, okay? Through their own voices, okay? Which, of course, since Black people are the community people that have been through the worst, we're going to use Black people as an example for this video, okay? Since not only Black people been through the worst, it's something I'm more familiar with, so I'm going to use us as an example for ending this racial representation issue in the movie industry, because the racial representation issue is obviously ruining movies. Like, people feel like they're not being represented enough in movies, and stuff. All this type of shit that you hear about relating to it, which is the reason why you see a lot of people, of course, complaining about movies nowadays sucking. Like, if you have a movie that's set in medieval ages, you somehow see Black people in it, or you might have something literally take place in China, you see like a Latino person in it, and it's not all that type of shit. That is what I'll be discussing for this video, okay? So when it comes to, of course, back to the main point, which is how we can end this issue, is simply put it, represent your own culture, okay? Because when it comes to representing cultures, okay, this particular issue, like, everyone wants to feel like their culture is being heard. Specifically, of course, Black people, we want to know about our own history of our own great civilizations and so on and so forth, whether it could be the civilizations of Nubia or the civilizations like in West, Central, and Southern Africa, is exactly what we'll be discussing today. But I mean, it's exactly what a lot of people want to, of course, have depicted, of course, alongside the fact that a lot of us, especially in African diaspora, don't really know who we are. The truth of the matter is, if, like anything in the world, if you really want something to be done, and you want it to actually be exactly what you want it to be, common sense would indicate you just simply do it yourself, okay? Because the truth of the matter is, when it comes to depicting movies of the past, specifically, of course, when it comes to the history topic of people of different races, and of course, like I said before, depicting Black people in media, Hollywood has had a very bad history of doing that, okay? Because the truth of the matter is, they just haven't done a good job, okay? I'm not gonna hide my words. They did a terrible job, okay? Because when you look at the history of the way they depicted anything related to African history, it has always been really either one or two things: slavery or the segregation era. That's really about it. There's nothing else to depict aside from the slavery or the segregation era, which, when we look at African history, since we're literally the first people on the face of the planet, the truth of the matter is, to put it bluntly, to be quite blunt and honest with you, okay, as we all know, whether you want to admit it or not, there is quite a lot of history we have. There is a lot of African history that has literally nothing to do with slavery, okay? We're not even talking about West and Central Africa and stuff, which were pretty much hubs for slavery back in the days for quite some time, where the history that they do have, but it's kind of hard to find, that has nothing to do with slavery. There's a lot of history that's Black history that consists of places in East Africa and Southern Africa. There's nations like ancient Nubia, which is the greatest rival of Egypt, I might add. There's Great Zimbabwe, that wasn't a part of Africa where slavery was not happening at that time. And there's a few other ones I'm aware of that existed in Africa for a long period of time before even anything related to African slavery even started. Okay, which if you look at history of slavery, African slavery, to be more exact, it pretty much started when Islam started to take off. So, in other words, pretty much if you can cover any part of history before Islam started, you can find more than enough stuff to show African history, which there's a lot of stuff about ancient India, okay? So, the truth of the matter is, when it comes to this particular issue, okay, why don't we just have more black directors to pick African civilizations? Like, as I said before, there's more than enough evidence. There's a lot of things that they did, like the Nubians fought against the ancient Romans, and a few other groups of Middle Easterners who wanted to come in and conquer them, like the Syrians and so on and so forth, and even had some times they fought outside of Nubia, okay? Those are all things that happened in the past, okay? Those are all things that really are historical events. If we have black people, who would represent their history, not bring up slavery, which white people are guilty of every single time they talk about African history. They can't go without bringing up slavery fucking once, which would make sense why black people don't pick their own history. If we have a black person to pick their own history, we could do that, and there would be definitely a huge demand for it, and that's what I'm talking about. Can you imagine how many black people want to watch that? Because let's keep it real, okay? Every community of people in the face of the world wants to have themselves depicted in one way or another, okay? Specifically when it comes to history, okay? Every group of people likes to, whether they want to admit it or not, like to brag about the things they accomplished, their own history, like interesting things that their people experience, and so on and so forth, yada yada yada. Every group of people in the face of the planet likes to be proud of their own history, okay? Which white people, even though they don't like to say it, you can clearly tell them like to feel very proud of their own history. They talk about all the damn fucking time. Okay? So when it comes to, of course, the history of Africa, it makes sense to, because black people, like any group of people, like to know about their own history. So why don't we depict our own history and stuff, which will not only serve the purpose of making our people get the joy of knowing our own history, whether out of curiosity or for pride or whatnot. Obviously, alongside it, we have a lot of black movies that are produced that depict African history as well. No shit. We can also hire a lot of black people, so we can have more black actors, get hired and get the money and fame that they want, and even make a fucking name for themselves, for that matter, okay? And go on to maybe other projects later on, which obviously would help with the shortage of black people who are actually successful actors, which I don't know if it's really something that still exists, but some people claim it still exists. But either way, the point is, it would help everybody in one way, form, if we create our own movies, okay? For that matter, whether it comes down to entertaining people because they want to know their own cool history, or secondly, no shit, for that matter, they can also, just to add to it, help a lot of black actors who are struggling actually, make a name for themselves and even go on to bigger things, for that matter. No shit, it's common sense 101, okay? So that is my honest answer of how we can end the issue, okay? Because if we don't end this issue of actually this racial representation issue, we're going to continue to have more political strife. And to keep it real, as we all already know, especially if you watch my other channel, the World Advice channel too, I talk about how annoying this new wave of liberals is, okay? There's a difference between regular, normal liberals like me and the annoying woke liberals. And these people are going to do a bad job. No matter how much, you tell them not to, they're going to do a crappy job, okay? They're stupid. They're very, very, very stupid people, okay? They're going to have a black person put in a world and a storyline and a timeline, for that matter, doesn't even exist. They might even have a movie about what's happening on Alpha Centauri and have a black person in there for an alien species. How the fuck did he get there? I wouldn't even be surprised if that happened. I would be shocked, to be fair, but not surprised. That's how dumb these people are, okay? And as a result of them fucking up everything, it just gives the racist conservatives, who I'm not really a fan of conservatism at all, even more of a point as to why their whole anti-wokeness argument that they make all the time. Then in other words, just code words for we want it to be like how it was many years ago. Okay, so in short, to sum things up, since the time for this video is running short, we need to create our own movies. Okay, because the quicker we can obviously create our own movies, us black people, can create our own movies to represent ourselves, to represent our own history specifically for this video is what I'm referring to. Not only will we experience the benefits I mentioned earlier in the video, we can also secondly end this annoying cancel culture, wokeness, bullshit issue. And that's true. So anyway, this is my video. This is all to say, and simply put them out. So bye.